All right. This is one of my favorite subjects. Right now, I'm in the middle of watching The Office and ranking every episode. And it's very painful because the last couple seasons were absolutely painful to watch. But before that, I ranked every episode of Seinfeld, and it was not as all. I think seasons like 8 and 9 of Seinfeld were a little bit not that great, but still, it's any episode of Seinfeld is better than most TV shows ever created. Um, with me to talk about it is Mike and Nick from Seinfeld Scholars, who are having a tournament of Seinfeld episodes. This should be really interesting, guys. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Doing awesome. Thanks for
We
having
probably
us.
should have got that CBS NCAA music going on in the background.
Yeah.
We're a little early. It's February madness instead of March.
February.
Get a jump on it.
February Fury.
There you go.
So okay, so if you go to at Seinfeld Scholar, it's Seinfeld SCHOLAR, and go to their pin tweet, you could vote on them. Voting is going on right now, and you're including every episode, but you had a bunch of buys. So how did you determine, like, how did you rank these? Obviously you had to rank these episodes. How did that happen?
It was pretty much committee work. So back and forth, a lot of discussion. As Nick can attest, I'm just shooting those guys homework. Let's focus on these ones, rank these, let's focus on these, do that. And eventually we kind of got to, okay, here's what the seatings are going to be, or here's how we're going to organize it, and those sorts of things. And I'll let Nick talk a little bit from his perspective, since I was the one with the spreadsheets and he wasn't.
Yeah. This isn't our first rodeo with this. I think we join a pretty storied group of people who've tried to rank Seinfeld episodes. So, Crummy, what was the first one? Was it 5 years or 10 years? We did a mini bracket.
10-year anniversary and 15-year anniversary.
Yep.
There was no bracket involved. It was just
Our opinions.
up to each individual person. Say, here's your top 10. Here's your top 15. And by the way, when we're talking about the anniversary, we're talking about it from the final episode. So this is a 25-year celebration this year. Final episode, May 14th. So back in the 10-year anniversary, 15-year anniversary, we did this top 10 list, top 15 list. Now we're getting into a bracket style where you can just pick one at a time out of two options. And really, the catalyst for that was wanting to make sure that every episode got visibility, got a chance. It wasn't just, oh yeah, here's kind of a common top 10, and we forget about a lot of them. We wanted every single episode to see the light of day and get an opportunity.
Let's just talk about the finale.
All right.
So, when here in the Pittsburgh area, they show two episodes of Seinfeld on one of the local TV stations at 11 and 11:30 p.m. And I kind of base my life around this, even though, and I lose sleep because of it, because I have to get up early in the morning, but I don't care because I still want to watch it. Even though I could watch any episode when I want, I still, when it comes on, I'm usually so excited and I usually watch it. But whenever the finale comes on, can't watch it. Or when I do watch it, I'm like, man, this just, they just missed. What do you guys think about the finale?
Mike, why don't you go first? I've got.
Okay, so I rewatched it just last week. I rewatched every episode over the last 8 months purely so I could write recaps for this tournament. So every poll comes with a little recap of each episode in case you just want a quick reference. But I know when I watched the finale live, I laughed like crazy because it was fun to see all this parade of characters come back. Evaluating it later with a critical eye, the biggest problem it had going for it was it just wasn't a normally structured Seinfeld episode. Forget about the fact that they sent him to prison and all that other stuff. They sidelined the main characters for 15 minutes in the courtroom, and basically it was just, Kramer kind of reacting to what the witness said. That's for 4 performers that were just magical for 9 seasons to kind of have them just sit there at a table. Probably wasn't the best direction. So I'm fully respectful of any and all opinions on the finale. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. I sort of think about the finale in that same way, right? With it, I get that they wanted to do a recap. I get that they wanted to bring back old people. I think that they kind of wanted to make it warm and fuzzy, but truly in a show about nothing, I thought the finale was basically about nothing. And as I watched it, I've watched it probably 3 times in the past 2 years. The last one was probably a couple weeks ago as well. I was just like, it just felt like a nothing. Like, how in the world did we get here? Right, especially when you look at a couple of the episodes preceding the finale. Yeah, looking back on it, it fell flat for me. Did I laugh? Yeah, I laughed. But boy, you're kind of hoping for this big home run or swan song, right? They're just going to sail off into the sunset, and
it's so hard. He was put in an impossible situation, but still, that's why I hated it, because it was so unlike every other episode. It was so different. Every episode is like, oh, they're doing stuff and they're, doing regular stuff, and then crazy things happen or whatever. This one, it was just so large and grandiose and so many people and so many things. Like, this isn't anything that I'm used to seeing. And I think that's personally why I hated it, because it's just so different from every other episode. And yeah, they get, I heard Seinfeld say recently, or at least I found out recently, that he said all the critics said, well, these characters, they do horrible things, nothing ever happens and they never get punished. So he's like, okay, I'll write an episode where they do get punished. It's like, yeah, but that's who cares about the critics? So I mean, it was so cool to have most of the characters come back. That was really cool. But it's just I think he was put in an impossible situation.
Yeah, if I may, I think one of the weird juxtapositions of the finale and season 9 is that was the season, the very last real episode, right, was the Puerto Rican Day, which caused a lot of controversy, right? Because if I recall right, a Puerto Rican flag got lit on fire, right?
Yes, and they banned that episode.
Yeah, it was a very edgy comedy that I thought that episode was really edgy and really pushed the boundaries. And it's a comedy that I don't think that if Seinfeld were airing today, that episode airs like that did. We're just not in that world anymore. And so when I think they pushed the envelope so far right there at 9, and then to come back for the finale, that was just another thing that, as I've thought about, where do these episodes rank and what role do they have and how do they end up in this big volume of comedy? That's a weird, that's some real tension for me.
I hated the Puerto Rican Day Parade. I actually listed it as, now I have 169 episodes because I think I took some of them and turned them into, 2-hour-long episodes, turn them whatever. So anyway, but still, I have it listed as my worst episode. I don't care. I mean, okay, yeah, I get the Puerto Rican flag thing was offensive, but it was just I think what they did in this episode, they took like 8 different writers or something like that, and they broke them off into teams. It's like, okay, you do this part of the episode, you do this part, and it was just a big mess. I hated it. I mean, besides the flag thing, did you guys even like that episode?
I don't have it going far. I didn't think it was a great episode. I guess what I felt like it was really edgy in some ways, and that's just I'm gonna leave my comments at that. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, some people were surprised at how much vote it was getting. It actually went up for a vote yesterday in the opening round. It's up against the parking space episode where George is attempting to parallel park before Mike Moffat comes in front first parking. And the Puerto Rican Day is actually getting a quarter of that vote. So it's like 75-25. It's not 95-5 or 99-1 or anything like that. So there are obviously people out there who didn't mind it or just really hate Mike Moffat. I don't know.
Man, that Michael Jordan, he's such a phony. I love that line.
That's a great line.
I love that. That's yeah. The parking space is one of my favorite episodes. And then when he comes back in, I think season 8 or 9, and he's the bookie. Oh, I forget what that was. The Susie episode. She wasn't. She didn't kill herself. She was murdered by Jerry Seinfeld. Oh, he was one of my favorite.
That's a great finish.
Minor characters. Yeah. Are there any other surprises in the votes that you've seen so far?
I wouldn't say surprises to this point, and obviously at this point it's episodes that we wanted to put early on, so we're not to the cream of the crop just yet. Anyway, although obviously people are going to have different opinions on that. There's definitely going to be first round episodes that people don't understand why they didn't get a buy, and that's fine. That's just Seinfeld. When you've got so many great episodes, you're going to run into that. But just one other point, since you mentioned the Susie and the parking space, those are going to meet in the next round. We had a little fun with putting some similar themes or similar characters and that sort of thing. So Mike Moffat versus Mike Moffat.
Oh boy, that's tough. Okay, I'm gonna go through these real quick. I'm gonna vote right now. Actually, okay. The Invitations versus the Pony Remark. The Invitations is one of my least favorite episodes because there are times in Seinfeld where they just go too far. And killing Susan, okay, she dies, that stinks. But their reaction, they're in the hospital, and he just finds out, hey, she died. And they're like, oh, okay, let's go get a sandwich. Like, someone just died. Your fiance just died. And they're like, oh, okay, let's go. And I mean, and I get it, and they kind of responded to that because a year later in the season 8 finale, The Summer of George, when George ends up in the hospital and he's like, well, you might be paralyzed or something, and they're like, oh, okay, bye. So okay, that's a funny. But I hated that part. I thought they went too far in killing Susan. My goodness.
Didn't they have a bigger reaction for the guy committing suicide than they did for Susan? Right? They were at least horrified by that.
Yeah.
The reaction for Susan was poor Lily.
Poor Lily. Yeah.
Get the name right. That's Kramer.
I pull that Kramer thing too. I call people by the wrong name, or I say their birthday or something wrong. It's like because I think I know what my own name is. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I think I do too. But okay, so I did not like the Pony Remark, but I'm going to vote for that. Oh, The Invitations is winning. Interesting. The Wife versus the Stock Tip. The Wife is the one with Courtney Cox, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, the Stock Tip. Okay, so seasons, I guess you could call it season 1, but basically seasons 1 and 2, I'm not a fan of most of those episodes because I don't think they found their footing yet. I don't think they found who they were yet. Do you agree that they're like really they got going in season 3?
I completely agree that they didn't have their footing yet. Where I maybe disagree is going back and not having watched those episodes until I was well in the groove of watching more like season 4, season 5, season 6, to kind of go back there. I feel like I can see the seeds being planted. I can see what they were going for. I can see they were doing. They just hadn't found that rhythm yet. They hadn't found that rhythm of how the actors and the characters play off of each other. They certainly hadn't found like the editing and timing rhythm of actually putting the show together. That's where it really transformed in my mind. It was partially the actors figuring out, but then that post-production part changed. They got it. They found it.
Yeah, I think two characters that I really think of that they are my favorites. It's George and Kramer. They are my favorite characters. And I don't think we really understood who Kramer was in seasons 1 and most of 2. And I don't think we found that out really until the end. And 3, he really took off. I think when George really became a more pathetic person in season 2, that I think that was a big stepping point for the series. Like, we got somebody, it's not Jerry, but boy, we know that we can throw stuff at Jason Alexander, and he's going to do a really great job at it. So that's, going back, I try to look at 1 and 2 in those eyes, like, okay, they don't know who they are yet. We haven't developed, but then, George and the Revenge. I mean, that was just, to me, it was like, this is a very, very pathetic human, and I love him.
One of my favorite George is a pathetic human responses is when the cabin burns down and they're home, they're a building is burning down. He's like, I don't think you gave me the money for the toll or something, or whatever he was like.
Right at the end of the Bubble Boy episode is
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, this kid might have died. By the way. Every time the Bubble Boy episode comes on, I always tweet, who invaded Spain in the 8th century? And I love when people don't get the joke. I love it. People are like, well, actually, this is what happened in Spain was this, and it's like, no. There's only two answers.
There's only two
Moors or
answers.
moops.
Moops.
If they say Moors, I say, oh no, it's moops. If they say moops, I'm like, that's a misprint. Every time I love it so much, and I love going back and forth. So anyway, okay, so the wife or the stock tip, I'm going to take the wife, and it is winning big. Okay. The apology versus the truth. Okay, I don't remember. Oh, the apology was with James Spader when he was with AA, and it's like, I didn't want your giant head ruining my sweater.
That's one of my, I don't necessarily put that episode near the top of my favorite episodes, but I love that line to that I'm so sorry that I didn't want your rather bulbous head struggling.
Spader was great in this, and that's you have a little synopsis of everything that goes on, and that's what I love doing when I was ranking them. Is I would list, and it's one of the reasons why I did this is I wanted to document all of the jokes and all the, because you forget some of that. Sometimes you remember the main plot, but you don't remember all the other things that were happening. So oh yeah, this is the one where Peggy thinks Elaine is promiscuous and doesn't want to touch it. She had some great lines in that. It's like, oh, I'm glad you brought over one of your many boyfriends to talk to me or something like that. And then the truth was Jerry's being audited. George's girlfriend was one of my least favorite in the series. She was very annoying. So
I'm chopsticks, right?
The chopsticks. She was so annoying. Okay, so the apologies looks like that's going to win. The masseuse versus the virgin. I hated. I get it about the masseuse. The thing about that episode, which who is the masseuse? Isn't that Jennifer Coolidge or something like that?
It is indeed. Yep.
Who has gone on to
with a normal voice, as a lot of people like to point out on Twitter these days. How does she have a normal voice when she was on Seinfeld?
Right.
Exactly. She doesn't even look like that anymore. So okay. And then the virgin. Okay, the virgin was the beginning of the show within the show storyline, which was to me one of the greatest things ever. I remember when it first came out, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. They're doing a show about the show in the show. That was amazing. Yeah, but I don't remember too much else. I think I'll go with the Virgin in that one. And the Virgin's winning big, so they'll.
Yeah, I think we got four relatively comfortable margins for the leaders on today's polls. Yeah, was it yesterday's were tight, or Saturday's? I think maybe had some tight ones going on, like the limo and the Cadillac is a hotly contested one. I know from Saturday that started up.
Okay, let's talk about the parents. Anything involving Jerry's parents and really George's parents, I take personally, because if you combined all of those Jerry's parents and George's parents into one set of parents, that was my life. That was my parents. It's so, and everything that happens, I'm like, oh, this happened to me. Just the yelling and the, refusing to pay, and just how Jerry's parents were. what did you just think? Let's start with Jerry's parents. What did you think of them?
I do think that the big change, right? Who's the swap out of Jerry's dads? Who are the two guys?
Oh yeah, the original Morty is like in the second.
I hated that.
And I think taking him out was probably a saving grace, because that guy, I forget his name.
Horrible. Yeah, he was horrible.
Not totally maybe the least memorable character in all of Seinfeld. Sorry, buddy. Anyway, that's my one thought, is like the new Morty.
Yeah, I thought his mom was hilarious. I enjoyed her. I mean, they didn't ask her to do a lot. She just, it wasn't like a Frank Costanza type performance sort of ask, or even an Estelle Costanza type of performance they were asking out of her, but just the sort of stuff like, oh, how can anyone not like you? It's impossible. It's impossible.
Exactly. Yeah. So good.
Barney Martin.
Barney Martin is
the
that
Morty.
original New Morty or Old Morty?
New Morty, right?
New Morty's but Barney Martin. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jerry's mom hooked up with James Dean or something like that.
I didn't know about that till like 3 months ago. I saw something about that. Weird.
But my goodness, George's parents are just amazing. Every scene Jerry Stiller is in, perfect.
We had a conversation about that a week ago, just as the committee got together, and that definitely took up a bulk of our time, and I think we're definitely in agreement. He not only did he do no harm, but he was always awesome.
He really made every scene he was in, he made it. And then George's mom too, just nailed it. Oh my goodness. And whenever they the bra, when he's explaining the bra, that was one of the best scenes ever. It was perfect. She's like, "You got catch up on my bra." Let me explain what the sizes are. Oh, that's another thing. And I always quote that. It's like, you got the A, you got the B, you got the D. The D is the biggest. And he says, "Yeah, Dad, I know the D is the biggest. I base my whole life on the D is the biggest." I get so many women reply to me, like, "Excuse me, D is not the biggest bra size." I'm like, I do not want to have this conversation. Thank you.
By the way, that episode, the sniffing accountant episode, is where that happens. And that episode, it's that one's going to have obviously a great chance, if for nothing else, than the Kramer scene where he drinks the beer and smokes a cigarette.
Puts a cigarette in the wrong way.
You talk about amazing physical comedy, and to pull that off, some of the things that he does, I think we don't appreciate enough how much Michael Richards just nailed some of that physical comedy. But just think about drinking a beer and smoking at the same time and nailing all of that. I think they did like a whole different take on that, where he also goes crazy and stuff like that, but still, oh my God.
Has there been anybody that's done physical comedy as well as him since the show?
I don't think so.
I mean,
I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
Right. And if someone was even close, we all probably would have said someone's name.
Right.
Yeah.
And that comedy just doesn't really exist a whole lot anymore. I mean, sitcoms sure have taken have gone their own way, but yeah. Could he go down in history as the last great physical comedian for a television series?
It's possible. It's possible. In terms of the quality of acting, obviously Jerry is way down at the bottom. I initially thought he was like the worst actor of all time or something like that, because like he was smirking in every scene he was in. Like, come on, dude. I mean, but I think he was a little better than that, but still. But I mean, in terms of best acting performances, or just best actors in general, I think it's maybe a tie between Jason Alexander and Julie Louis-Dreyfus. I mean, Jason Alexander just made this whole series, so he was just the perfect George. You when they talk about it, it's like, well, this could have this person could have been George, or this person's like, no, it would not have worked. Jason Alexander just absolutely nailed it.
I think Dreyfus's performance, to me, she's the most believable human being on the show, right? I think everybody else is truly a caricature of somebody or something. And maybe in a way, she is a caricature, but I think she could have, like, in a real world social situation, I think a lot of people can be like, oh yeah, I know an Elaine, but do you really know a George? Do you really know a Kramer? Like, so to me, I find her a very relatable character, yet still embodying some of the, like, a career that just won't go anywhere. She cannot find love no matter how hard she tries. And yet, like, I know a lot of people like that.
Well, growing up watching the show as a 14-year-old to 18-year-old, when I watched each episode for the first time, I had absolutely not enough appreciation for Julia Louis-Dreyfus and what she was doing with the material they gave her. Because when you really try to drill down on some of the lines that she had to give compared to what the guys were given at times, I mean, she took it to a completely different level with how she was performing on that stage. It's crazy now to watch it and see, oh my gosh, how did, even as a 14-year-old kid, yeah, I'm just more interested in the jokes maybe, but wow, it's just, it blows me away even to this day what she did.
Well, she was also, for me, I'll admit it. Okay. She was also a sex symbol for sure.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because I thought
I had a crush on her.
Yeah, total crush on her. Drop dead gorgeous and funny and on TV. Yeah, I mean, that still gets my, heart.
I'm thinking about
your heart. Okay.
I'm thinking about her performance in the subway when the subway breaks down or something like that, and she's just like, her internal monologue is going off, and she was so good in that. But yeah,
well, and then when she pulls off the porn star voice in the tape, oh my god, like, there is not a man in America, and maybe a lot of women in America, who didn't listen to that and go, oh yeah.
See, that was one of my least favorite episodes, because it was like, so you had this Jerry and Elaine dynamic, and they basically agreed, okay, let's just be friends, and then you have her, and they all fell in love with her, which I think all of America fell in love with her. Like, oh my god. But in terms of characters progressing from the beginning to the end of the series, Jerry basically stayed the same. George kind of stayed the same. I mean, he had that high when he was with the Yankees, and then, but basically he was always just a pathetic loser. Kramer is always Kramer, but Elaine went from like respectable person to just someone that just gave up on life. At the end, she just like, whatever, I give up. I mean, it just every professionally, with her relationships, everything, it just all went to hell for her.
Nothing ever worked for Elaine. Like, nothing. Right.
Yeah.
Even when she tried the opposite, it still didn't work out. Right.
Well, I know Jerry has spoken about in the airport episode specifically, and that's a little bit more in the early going, but they kind of decided that Jerry would be the one that things work out for on occasion, not the other ones. The other ones are the ones where they're supposed to fall on their faces and have all this comedic conflict and all these sorts of things. And Jerry's going to be the observer who's kind of even Steven, and he's just going to kind of slide through, and
everything evens out.
Yep.
Perfectly. He ends up with that great situation in the airplane with the model, and then it goes away because he picks his nose. Evens out. I did that episode where he's like, I'm even Steven, where he's like, she's like, just give me some money, and then she throws away. It's like, you could have done that with anything. Yeah. Okay. Let me just do my top 10 episodes, and then we'll go from there. I have number 10 is The Outing. I guess people don't like it. I guess it's one of those, that's one of those things where the show is outdated. The show is out. There's so many episodes of Seinfeld where you could say, if they had a cell phone, this is not happening. You know, like the Chinese restaurant, like when the Keith Hernandez episode where he says, "Say, tell me I'll mark me in like," you know, that's a text message, you know, and everything's cleared up. But I don't know. I guess people, because of the things about you know, how people view, you know, gay people or something like that. But one of my favorite episodes, and I still love The Outing. What did you think of that?
That was one of your showcase picks, Nick, when we
Yeah.
did episode showcases leading up to the bracket. So we put a little 1 minute highlight film of a bunch of different episodes. So The Outing is one of those, but it's a total classic. One can argue maybe it's outdated in this day and age, but for the moment, it was groundbreaking to an unbelievable level, I think.
I agree. And again, hard to do comedy like that today. And I think that solidifies its spot as just a groundbreaking episode. Just hysterical. I mean, you're laughing every 7 to 10 seconds in that episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not, maybe not a gut buster, but you're always giggling, you're always smirking. There is, like, you know, they're hitting on that episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys and Dolls. Isn't that a lavish Broadway musical? Is Guys and Dolls, not Guys and Guys. I have number 9 is the Merv Griffin episode. Maybe maybe I shouldn't have had it that high. It was such a cool concept of having the Merv Griffin show and just Kramer running with it. Even was like, let's go to commercial break, and he's eating chips and drinking, and it's like, and we're back. Like, that's so funny. Did you have a Merv Griffin show high?
Nick,
it always ranks high for me.
Yeah, it always ranks high for Nick. I know that one's a polarizing one within our committee. I know there are a couple committee members who really don't have it very high at all, but no, we've got it in the definitely upper tier. And a lot of these, you know, we put them in the upper tier because they have to be there. They're so popular. They're so well known, especially for a final season episode. I feel like Serenity Now and Festivus are ranking somewhere 1A, 1B for the most memorable thing from the last season. And then right behind it, I think, is the Merv Griffin show. So I think that definitely plays a part in that.
Right. I think I like the Merv Griffin episode. You know, it's also the one where, you know, Jerry sort of drugs a girl, right? And that's
okay.
I mean, that is
that went too far. That went too far. It's like, you drugged a girl to play with her toys? Like, yeah, that let's not roofie girls. Okay, let's not make comedy about that. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about season 9. It's like, you think, and you know, they probably could have gone on for like another season or two, but you know, they decided to end in season 9. It's like, okay. And usually if a show goes 9 seasons, it's like, God, that's the last season's going to be horrible. And there were some bad episodes, but still, I mean, we got the Festivus from season 9. That's one of the greatest things ever. It's one of the things that live on to this day. We all celebrate Festivus on December 23rd.
It's true. Exactly right.
I have number 8 is the chicken roaster, mostly because mostly because Jerry and Kramer basically switching roles, and they both played it so well. Jerry being Kramer was perfect, and Kramer being Jerry was they just nailed it. It was so funny.
Yeah, we've got one committee member who pretty much any discussion we would have, he would just make sure to throw the chicken roaster in there. Just as long as people vote for the chicken roaster, just as long as the chicken roaster quits being underrated and that sort of thing. But funny enough, I believe the chicken roaster and the Merv Griffin show, if they make it to that point, would meet in the
that's going to be a tough one.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have number 7 as the abstinence. This is the greatest concept ever, and this is perfect Seinfeld. I think this is real life. If guys don't think about sex, that takes away a lot of their brain. And George becoming exponentially smarter is just the funniest concept. You know, just when he says, "Oh, absolute zero. I die every time. And then he's all with those books. And Elaine says, like, what's going on here? It's like, I can't have sex. It was just such a perfect episode. And then Elaine becoming dumber because she can't have sex.
They flip it around. Yeah, I mean, they could
Yeah.
have just left it at George and it would have been funny, but no, they took the correct extra step and flipped Elaine and having the opposite side effects. Yes, indeed.
I need a 4-letter word. Winnie the Pooh. I have number 6 as the marine biologist, and I don't even know why I had it that low. The final scene is gotta rank up there with one of the greatest in the series history, and apparently Jason Alexander just got that like they just that was like a late rewrite. It's like, hey, just memorize this and run it, and he just nailed it. Perfect episode. And the other thing, it really shows that doing this in front of a live studio audience really helps. The way that the audience reacted was perfect.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And, obviously, probably the most famous scene for sure, if not episode overall. We put it as the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. We only announced what the number 1 seeds were. We kept all the other seed numbers off.
Okay.
Intentionally, just so people didn't get bogged down on, I don't really think that should have been this and I'll do this. Just here's 2 episodes. Vote on whichever one you think is best. Let's keep it simple.
Number 5 I have is the sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. We remember the marine biologist, right? But that's also the Testikov episode. And again, I keep coming back to these things like where they're what I think Seinfeld did so well in so many episodes is that they were able to take our cultural idiosyncrasies and to make us laugh at them most of the time in a way that like most people just didn't get offended by, right? And just another great example with Yuri Testikov. I mean, just this angry old Russian, right? It's I feel like you can still do it on The Simpsons and you can still do it on South Park right now, but anywhere else outside of that, I think it's pretty tough. And they just did it time and time again, right? Like Chinese people, Jewish people, Russian people, gay people, straight people, old people, yeah, like on and on and on with this. And if you didn't laugh at it, I don't think it was their fault, and I don't think it was a bad joke.
I like when it was the Chinese woman, and Elaine says,
Donna Chang.
"Isn't that bad?" Yeah, Donna Chang is. Isn't it bad if you're making fun if you're talking about stereotypes? Like, it's not bad if I'm saying good things about them.
Yeah, you're not racist if you like them.
Yeah.
Anyway, a little bit of a sidebar.
The fire. This is just George at his best. He is not the way he knocks over everybody to get out of that kitchen was amazing. And then afterwards, they all confront him, and someone says, "How do you live with yourself?" He's like, "It's not easy."
That's a great line.
Perfect. I have number 4 as the soup Nazi. This is just, I mean,
it's got to be up there, right?
It's iconic. It's one of the things that everybody, when you think of Seinfeld, you think of no soup for you.
Funny little story. We did reach out to Larry, and he did tweet about the bracket for us. So that was kind of neat. Yeah, that was our one little cast endorsement.
No way.
Yeah. Oh. I'll never forget. I'm gonna save that email and that tweet forever. Like, that was pretty awesome.
Number 3 I have is the opposite. This is this is just basically an all-star episode. It was a great concept, but George acting the opposite was perfect. I remember seeing it the first time, and when he goes up to the woman, he says, "My name is George. I'm unemployed and I live with my parents." She's like, "Hi." Like, perfect. And then the scene in the movie theater when the kids are acting up and he turns around and screams at them. And just perfect. He's like, I'm kidding. And you want to try me? Try me, because I was perfect. What did you think of the opposite?
Yeah, another upper echelon in our bracket for sure. And yeah, like you said, I mean, the first time watching that episode when he walks up to that Victoria gal and gives her the line, and then when we first meet Steinbrenner for the very first
It was
in that episode too. Hire this man.
Hire this man.
Yeah. What Ruth Mantle Gerhard Costanza.
That was, oh my goodness. What a great day. Let's play two. He was just so happy. And then and Elaine, just everything fell apart because the Mr. Littman sneezed and ruined a murder or something like that.
Yeah. I do contend. I think it was shortly thereafter that when that episode aired, that's when the Yankees went on their tear in the mid-90s.
They did. That's
like
true.
The Yankees became the powerhouse again. And
I don't know.
contend that maybe it had to do something with George. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, he was in the organization. I don't know how big baseball fans you guys are, but the thing in that people don't understand maybe now is George Steinbrenner was that hated owner that he's basically like basically the Steinbrenner of now is Jerry Jones with the Cowboys. The owner that has to make everything about himself, that makes all these deals, that doesn't care about the future. Right? We only want to win now. And when they thought George died and Steinbrenner goes to George's parents to tell him, hey, your son died. George's dad yelling at him about Jay Buhner was one of the greatest things ever. Your son died. Why did you trade Jay Buhner? Oh.
But still totally in the canon of this is how they treat death. I mean, that was not like a consistent theme. I do think that Mike and I can relate because we both spent both Minnesotans, and we've had to deal with the Pohlad family for years, and a franchise up in Minneapolis now that hasn't done anything since 1991, right? So yeah.
And there's a lot of people tell me Ken Phelps. I loved the Steinbrenner character. I just thought that was perfect. And they never showed his face. It was always. I do also love that they actually had the actual George Steinbrenner act in the scene, and they're like, this sucks. We're gonna cut it. That is thing. Okay, so real quick, number 2, I have the subway, and number 1, I have the contest. What are your number 1 seeds in your bracket?
Number 1 seeds are marine biologist, the contest, the soup Nazi. So 3 of them that we covered here. And then the Fusilli Jerry, which is my all-time favorite, which is the Ass Man license plate episode where David Putty steals. There it is. David Putty steals Jerry's move. George's girlfriend feels like it's aliens poking at her body when George is attempting to pleasure her bed.
What are you doing? I'm pleasuring you.
So yeah, that's our other number 1 seed. That's probably the toughest one. I think the other 3 always kind of get thrown in that mix, trying to find that what is that 4th one was maybe the toughest one. But yeah, those are the 1 seeds. There's a couple other ones I just want to quickly mention. The Switch for me is all-time classic, and George's reaction to finding out that his idea for Jerry to propose the menage a trois actually worked better than expected, but that Jerry wasn't going to go through with it. It's just unbelievable. This is like discovering plutonium by accident. Nick, what do you want to? Nick, go ahead and plug one.
I've always been partial, and the committee thinks I'm crazy for this, but for me, the conversion was a brilliant episode, mainly because I'm Eastern Orthodox.
The Kavorka.
Yeah, and that they were, that my team got poked fun at on a sitcom. I thought that's really one of my favorites. I don't think it will go far, but I did love that episode with the Kavorka as well.
Are those the people that go around mutilating squirrels?
Eating squirrel and mutilating squirrels. I did love the big salad. The Junior Mint was also just
We could do this all day. What
You could do it all day. And
See,
I think that's
to
why
me, seasons 3 and 4 were like the peak of it. It's basically you could take the series into 3 sections. You have seasons 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 are like, to me, really 3, 4, and 5 were like the peak of the show, and then it kind of went down for 7, 8, and 9. But yeah, seasons 3 and 4 were just, I mean, the contest to me is the number one, and then like right around that time, it was just one amazing episode after the other. But about the switch, they did an entire episode where George can't have sex and he becomes exponentially smarter. Think about the switch and how many hours and days they formulated a plan where they could switch him and propose a menage a trois, and just how much manpower and brain power went into how can we get this sexual thing going?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
I do think one of the other neat things about just Seinfeld in general and what they were doing, especially 3, 4, 5, I think 6 also before it slowed down, was just the regular, like, weekly episodes or every other week. They're just churning out episode after episode that are hysterical. We just don't see that anymore, right? And I don't know if we'll ever see that anymore, right? I mean, South Park does it. Simpsons can do it, but these guys just they just did it over and over and over. So
169 episodes, and we're gonna vote through them all now. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to have some fun? Do you really want
to? So go to Seinfeld Scholar and vote on them. How long is it going to last then? Is it going to be a month?
Yeah, we're talking 3 months here, because we're stretching it out with 5-day polls early, then 6-day polls, and then 7-day polls by the end. So it's going to be a lot to get through. We're going to give people time to rewatch a lot of it if they want to. So we're going to make this a big celebration. We're milking it.
Yeah. For those people who might not be aware, you can watch all, like I'm up in Seattle. It's on CW 11 for us, 11 o'clock every night, right? Back-to-back episodes. I'm usually in bed, but Netflix does air it. So it's very serendipitous for us that happened. So while you can still share your passwords with your friends, you can do that. And, Mike put in a lot of time editing little video shorts, right? Those are all available. Right, Mark or Mike, we can get those.
Yeah, you can find those on our profile page. Yep.
Yeah. So if, one of my friends is like, I don't have time to watch 168 episodes. I'm like, dude, you have an hour. Go watch 61-minute shorts. He goes, oh, I can do that. Yep. And it just took off. So
yeah,
it's perfect.
We talked about those recaps earlier too. They're right there with every vote. Just quick reference. See what happened in that episode, other than just what the title thing was about. There you go.
That's the thing. And so yeah, you get the title, and obviously if you Silly Cherry, that was when the part called this and the thing, but there's like, what else happened? And so it's perfect. He stopped short. That was my move. Like, yeah, we all know. It is amazing that we are still talking about this show 30 years later. I think that's just speaks to how well it was done. Just, I don't know. It's just perfectly created, perfectly made, and perfectly acted. And yeah, some of the things are outdated, but for the most part, it still holds up like crazy.
Yeah, I think my kids will watch it and laugh.
Perfect.
Give them 3 or 4 years. I think just like they'll sit and watch Dazed and Confused and they'll laugh. They'll sit and watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off and they'll laugh. Right? It's up there.
Yeah. All right, guys. I could spend hours talking about this. I am, like I said, it was one of my most fun things to do, to watch every episode and document it and rank it. And I can't wait to go through it again, and I'm going to I'm going to have a lot of fun with this tournament. So thanks for doing this.
Make your voice heard.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
you guys.